The narrative has been brought up throughout the course of this whole draft process that Ohio State quarterbacks cannot succeed in the NFL. And by looking at this graphic, there's really not an argument against it. But with Justin Fields being selected 11th overall by the Chicago Bears in this year's draft, and you look at the recent history of Ohio State quarterbacks from guys like Troy Smith, Braxton Miller, Cartel Jones, JT Barrett, and Dwayne Haskins, those guys have really not had success in the NFL. But can Justin Fields be the guy that comes in and change that entire narrative on Ohio State quarterbacks succeeding in the NFL? But before I get into that, make sure you guys leave this video a like. And if you are a first-time viewer, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a video. But without further ado, let's dive into it.
I'm striving to get rich. That's why I always went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
For the first part of this video, we're going to go into a little bit of a brief history over the past 10 to 15 years as to why Ohio State quarterbacks have not had success in the NFL. Going back to Troy Smith. Troy Smith, even though he was a Heisman Trophy winner at Ohio State, he did not have the number one, the arm talent, and number two, he did not really get drafted high because of his height. Troy Smith, although he was a very talented college quarterback, his skill set necessarily did not translate over to the NFL. Despite him having some moderate success with the Ravens and the 49ers in his career, ultimately, he did not have a very successful NFL career. Moving on to Terrell Pryor. Now, Terrell Pryor had the skill set as far as his legs. He was big at 6'6", but he had that tattoo scandal in college, which caused him to go into the supplemental draft. And also when he got to the NFL, he was not really given a true shot to be a quarterback outside of a little bit of a brief stint as a starting quarterback of the Oakland Raiders at that time. Even though Terrell Pryor was a very physical specimen and he had worldly gifts, he was transitioned into a wide receiver later on in his NFL career, and he also dealt with a ton of injuries after that transition. Then we're going to go on to Braxton Miller, who did not really necessarily have the arm talent as well, but was very, very mobile and was very, very physical at the quarterback position. He transitioned to wide receiver after suffering 2 devastating shoulder injuries, and when he went to the NFL, he was a wide receiver, and he did not last in the NFL. Then you go next to Cartel Jones, who had the arm talent, but not necessarily the mobile skill set that the previous quarterbacks had. And also, Cartel Jones was in an Urban Meyer system where it was more a college system versus a guy that was a pro-style type of quarterback in that system. So even though he had some success, he was not in a typical pro-style offense that fit his typical pro-style skill set. And when he got to the NFL, he really did not have that success, being drafted later in the 5th round in 2016 by the Buffalo Bills, and he really did not have that opportunity to succeed in the NFL. Then you transition over to JT Barrett. Now, when you watch JT Barrett, he was not really that great of a passer in college. He was a great leader. He had some great mobility, but some of that mobility was taken away by that devastating leg injury that he suffered during that 2014 Ohio State National Championship season. Although JT Barrett was a great leader, his skill set is not being the best passer in the world definitely did not translate to the NFL, and which left him undrafted. Now you're going to go to Dwayne Haskins, and Dwayne Haskins was definitely a talented quarterback, definitely had the arm, definitely had the accuracy, but when you look at Dwayne Haskins' career with Washington, it was undone by the Washington organization not being very great, and also with his own ego. Now, I'm not going to get so deeply into that. Flimlo Raps did an excellent video on Dwayne Haskins that I'm going to leave in the description below. Now I'm going to transition things over to Justin Fields. The difference, I think, between Justin Fields and all the other quarterbacks that were mentioned is that, number one, Justin Fields has a lot more arm talent than any other of those quarterbacks mentioned. Justin Fields had the benefit of playing in that Ryan Day system where he has him under center. He had him do a ton of different things in that offense. He was able to throw on a run. He was able to sit back in the pocket and make different reads. So he was in more of a different offense than all of those other quarterbacks that were mentioned. Urban Meyer ran a college-like system, definitely speed, no huddle type of system, versus Ryan Day. He ran something a little bit different to give the quarterback different looks, give the quarterback different reads, versus in Urban Meyer's system, it wasn't a lot of reading, it was just a lot of hit your first man and go. So when you look at Justin Fields versus those other quarterbacks, Justin Fields has the physical skill set as far as pushing the ball down the field a whole lot more accurately, and as far as being able to read defenses, something that wasn't majorly asked of those other quarterbacks. Also, when you would factor into Justin Fields' athletic ability, his accuracy, and his arm talent, he is easily the most talented quarterback to ever step foot on an Ohio State campus. Now you look at Justin Fields going into the NFL, his skill set transitions a whole lot better than those other quarterbacks, and especially in today's NFL, where the mobile quarterback is being more accepted in years past, which is why Terrell Pryor was not necessarily looked at as a quarterback. Justin Fields has the absolute skill set, the absolute tools to come in and change that entire narrative of Ohio State quarterbacks not succeeding in the NFL. He lands himself into a really good situation with the Chicago Bears as to having Andy Dalton as that leader, as to having Andy Dalton as that starting quarterback. That way Justin Fields is not rushed onto the football field. So when you look at Justin Fields, he has the situation where he can come in, he doesn't have to be rushed to start right away, especially with his skill set, and he still needs a little bit more developing. So Justin Fields is absolutely in a great situation, and he is absolutely more skilled and has more professional ready type skills than any of those quarterbacks mentioned. And he did not play in that Urban Meyer college-like system where Ohio State focused more on running the football versus in Ryan Day's system. They were attacking down the field and making different reads, and he had to make different types of throws in order for that offense to succeed. So when you look at Justin Fields compared to all the other Ohio State quarterbacks in the past, he's more skilled. He has more skills that will translate into today's pro style of football. And Ohio State was running a totally different offense in this era than they were in years past. So looking at Justin Fields and looking at his situation with the Chicago Bears and looking at his skill set, and then you have to factor in the mindset of Justin Fields, how tough he is, especially with those injuries that he dealt with against Michigan and the injury that he suffered in the national semifinal against Clemson, and come in and still have that success. Justin Fields has that toughness, he has the mobility, and he also has the arm strength to really change the narrative. And he's in a great situation so he can further his NFL career by being developed properly by the Chicago Bears. So the narrative of the Ohio State quarterback not succeeding is absolutely true, but Justin Fields definitely has the ability to change that, but we will have to watch and see that situation play out for the years going forward. But that is all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys leave this video a like. Do you think Justin Fields will be able to change the narrative on Ohio State quarterbacks succeeding in the NFL? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to continue this conversation going forward. And also, if you've gotten to this point, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video. But I'm APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great next day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.